Welcome to Groups This Week. As a church, we exist to help all people become fully devoted followers of Jesus. We believe doing life together is a crucial part of that journey. During this time, we're going to unpack and dig deeper into the sermon we heard this past week. Let's dive in as we continue to grow in our faith, knowledge, and love of Jesus together. Well, hey, and welcome again, community groups. We were just in week 2 of our Psalms of Ascent series. This past Sunday. And David, you were preaching Psalm 121.
Psalm 121, the classic.
The second Psalm of Ascent. Why is it the classic Psalm of Ascent?
Well, so many worship songs are based on Psalm 121. Back in the 90s, it was that, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Do you remember that one?
I do, actually, yeah. I feel there's probably a lot more based on that.
Oh, there's so
right?
many, yeah. Praise you in the
hills.
mountains. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll just dive right into it. So as we look at Psalm 121, and we heard last week with Brad that, these were songs that were sung on pilgrimage to Jerusalem for various festivals throughout the year. And so when it comes to Psalm 121 specifically, if you're an Israelite singing this song on Ascent to Jerusalem, like what's going through your mind? Or in other words, what's taking place within this psalm that's significant?
Well, you're going up towards Jerusalem, and as you're making your way there, your eyes are going to be looking upwards. What I think you have happening in Psalm 121 is you have the psalmist, as he's heading to Jerusalem to celebrate, celebrate who God is, who Yahweh is, as well as celebrate his mighty acts throughout the history of ancient Israel. And you're meditating on that. You're thinking about, okay, in life, in his own life, in our own lives, where do we look for help? Yeah. And it's interesting because in the psalm, it says, I lift up my eyes to the hills, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? And it's easy to say, you look up your eyes to the hills and you see the hills and it reminds you of, God's strength and God's solidity and God's unchanging promises, because mountains do that. And we can experience that here. Not so much in Saskatchewan, but here you can, and we can see the mountains. And so it's easy to say, he's looking up to the mountains, and that's where he's finding his strength, is the metaphor of the mountains giving him strength. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's the case at all. And I'm drawing from our man Eugene Peterson.
Yeah.
And a number of other, and Derek Kinder, some of these other guys. They're saying if you lift up your eyes to the hills, what you're going to see is not help, or you're going to get help is going to be on offer, but it's not good help, because up on the mountains, that's where you'd find pagan shrines, Asherah poles, all these things that would distract people from lifting up their eyes to God. And so it's a bit of a twist, I think. I lift up my eyes to the hills and I see all these instant fix gods. And the pilgrim saying, yeah, that's not where I find my help. My help comes from where? From the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth, the maker of the mountains, the maker of all that there is. So I think that's what's going on in the song. Yeah.
Interesting. I always thought it was like you look at the mountains and it's like, wow, God's creation speaks to the Creator.
Yeah. No, I think it's more, I lift up my eyes to the mountains and then I see a false help.
Okay.
And then he asks the question, from where does my help come? Yes. Let me remember it. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Because up on the mountains you would get your pagan shrines. And some, one of the gods of that were infecting the ancient Israelites was the god Baal. And Baal was a fertility god, and through acts of fertility and with temple prostitutes and different things like that, you could access Baal's help for maybe fertility in your family or fertility in your crops and those sorts of things. But Baal was known for being a bit of a drunken god. And and the challenge for Baal, and you get a bit of this with Elijah in Mount Carmel, and the big showdown that takes place there. Baal was a bit of a drunken god, and so the challenge was to wake him up,
Right.
get him out of his drunken stupor to help you. And so what does it say in the psalm?
I forget.
He says about our God. Our God is a God who does not slumber. He neither slumbers nor sleeps. And I think that's a shot against people turning to Baal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot more context in this psalm than maybe initially thought.
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
So cool. Well, bringing it down to just like our own walk with God, as we look at this psalm, like how does it encourage us? How does it encourage you specifically, David?
Well, over and over again, it says that the Lord is our keeper. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will not let your foot be moved. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming home from this day forth and forevermore. And so what I love about this psalm is a picture of God's presence and God's presence as we walk with him. There's a danger with this psalm. It's like, because of God, nothing will ever go wrong in life. Well, we know that's not the case. We know Jesus' great promise that nobody puts up on the wall. In this world, you will have trouble. We know at the center of our faith is a cross. So we know that, suffering is part of life.
Yeah.
But what this psalm teaches us is that whatever we experience in life, good things or bad things, whatever things happen, they will not separate us from God.
Yeah.
And that God is in the midst of the highs and the lows, the mountains and the valleys. And he will, and if we walk with him, he'll bring us safely home. I think that's what's going on in the psalm, and it's powerful. To me, it's really spoken to me. The Psalms of Ascent really do, because I've said this before, but the Psalms of Ascent are memorizable. You can memorize. So there's a time in my life where I memorized many of the Psalms of Ascent. I'm not great at memorizing things other than hockey scores and things like that. But I have memorized some of the Psalms of Ascent, and Psalm 121 in particular has always spoken to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our minds are capable of a lot more than we give them credit for sometimes. And you set your mind to it.
Well, my mind's getting old.
You can memorize, yeah.
But you can, yeah.
Yeah, such a neglected spiritual practice.
It is.
Scripture memorization, but so beneficial.
In a world of Google, who needs to memorize?
That's right. Yeah. Well, maybe final question, David, just thinking, if there's someone here who's in a community group listening and maybe they're struggling to see God as their source of help. Maybe he feels distant. Like, what would you say to that person?
Well, the Lord is your keeper. The Lord is the shade at your right hand. Therefore the sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. And the challenge in life is to constantly turn towards him. And so one of the questions I asked was, when you're in trouble, where do you first look to for help?
Yeah.
And the Lord is our helper. And he's not just our helper, but he's good. He's loving. And I know that the biggest challenge in the Christian life is, can we trust God, and is God as loving as his son says he is? I think those are the two big questions. Well, this psalm just reaffirms the fact that we can trust him. And he is as good as his son says he is. And we need to hold on to that as we go through the valley, as we go through dark times. Because as Peterson's book is titled, the Christian life is that long obedience in the same direction. We want things quick, but it's not. Life is never quick. It's always this long obedience that we need to walk with Jesus.
Yeah. I love that understanding of faithfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a world of instant fixes, the long obedience is a hard challenge. Yeah,
certainly. Amazing. Well, thanks, David.
You're welcome.
And just a reminder, we do have the prayer and practice guide available on the website under the media page, or it should be on the front page of the website as well. The practice, I think, will be a little bit, may need a little bit of modification or understanding, given that we told you to go take a hike or take a walk in nature and be present to God. But in light of maybe the context,
but it still applies. I thought it was
exactly,
but it does, because Romans 1, the heavens, we see God's glory in His creation.
Absolutely,
we absolutely do. Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. Oh, and one thing I should say about the booklet that you put together is that we're going to have hard copies available, and we sell them for whatever it costs to print them.
$5.
$5.
Yeah.
But hey, if you don't have $5, just take it. We want you to have it. So come to the bookshop.
That's right.
And pick one up. Yeah.
It's too bad we aren't there this morning, but
Yes,
that's okay.
that's right.
Okay, have a great discussion, guys. We hope you enjoyed the teaching today. If you're wanting to follow along with our community group's discussion guide with your group, you can head to cachurch.ca/media, where you can find the discussion guide. Not only are there questions there related to the sermon, but there's also prayer prompts that relate to the passage or the topic that we were talking about, and practices that you can, on an individual level or a group level, begin integrating into your life to not only bring this knowledge into your mind, but to begin living it out.